Tell me, have you ever experienced a sudden, inexplicable loss of consciousness?
3 years ago, Square Enix released Final Fantasy XIV Online. In our original review, we blasted the game for its numerous design and gameplay flaws and labeled it an incomplete mess. Rather than abandoning the project, the company responded by going back to the drawing board to completely overhaul the game in an effort to win back the trust and support of its fanbase.
We shall soon return to give a full report.
From top to bottom, A Realm Reborn addresses nearly every single major issue that plagued version 1.0. The experience draws from some of the most popular and successful MMOs on the market and feels like a complete game now. Hitting the level 50 cap now, regardless of class, has more than enough quests and activities to keep you occupied, a task which moved before at a snail's pace with little variety.
For the sake of all, I beseech thee, deliver us from this fate.
It feels like you're constantly making progress, and while some of the activities can feel remedial, the streamlined nature of the questing process more than compensates for any shortcomings. Whether it's tackling story, class, or side quests, running dungeons, or participating in one of the random group events known as fates, everything is clearly explained and marked so that you'll never be lost. In fact, with few exceptions, the game goes to great lengths to ensure you're properly informed at all times, including in battle.
I think that sword might be a clue. You should definitely pull it out and take it back to the banner.
Combat in A Realm Reborn moves at a much faster pace than before, delivering immediate gratification. No matter what class you pick, battles are never a headache like they often were before. Thanks to a range of abilities you're given as you progress, the action never gets dull. At times, the wide variety can feel overwhelming, especially when running together in a party, fighting a boss, or multiple enemies. There are certainly classes that are easier to learn, but some can get a bit tricky and come with a significant learning curve.
No doubt you are right to burst with questions, but have patience. All will be revealed in time.
Gone is the generic look and feel of the environments. While the names of locations are the same and there are a few familiar landmarks, A Realm Reborn looks like a totally new game. Some of the higher level areas look particularly spectacular. Even the starting locations don't hold back, offering lavish attention to detail. You'll constantly find yourself wanting to go off into a remote area to explore, or just stop at a perfect viewpoint to take in the sights.
Only believe, for the light liveth in thy heart.
Despite the scenic beauty, crisscrossing the same zones over and over again can be abated with much improved travel options. Early on, you get the ability to teleport for a minimal fee to any area you've already visited, but you can also charter ferries, airships, and chocobos to take you along predetermined routes. Additionally, you'll unlock various mounts as you progress through the game to quicken your travel time to any spot on the map. The great dangling carrot that will motivate you to reach level 50, finish the story, and claim your reward is the Magitech armor. While a good chunk of the path to hitting your level cap can be done solo, there are times you have to partner up with other players to accomplish your next task. If you're with a group of friends, you can form a party and tackle these instanced events together. The solo-minded can use the Duty Finder system, which pairs players together quickly and efficiently. Occasionally, the wait for the Duty Finder to create a party and reserve an instance can take some time, but compared to other MMOs, it's never unreasonable.
I have awaited your coming.
The dungeons are easily the highlight of the experience, with ever-increasingly difficult objectives and monsters to overcome. Each one comes with a unique hook, and just when you get complacent, you're thrown something new and unexpected. They're intense, hour-long marathons with challenging bosses that require diverse tactics and impeccable teamwork. They're also the best place to get new gear and level up.
Understood. Over and out.
Speaking of gear, the lack of an auction house was a huge oversight in the initial release, remedied in A Realm Reborn. You still have to create a retainer that can sell up to 20 items at a time in the markets, but you won't have to manually search through each retainer's wares. Instead, you can go up to any one of several bulletin boards within the major cities and use a very efficient and thorough search tool to browse the entirety of all items being sold on the server. Simply find if an item is available, and if the price is right, you can buy it on the spot. It's a bit tedious to have to research prices if you're a seller, but it's a much improved system.
Please bear word of these developments to Brother Esumiya.
While the trek to level 50 is mostly an enjoyable experience, there are times when it feels like a grind. Through your first 20 or so levels, you'll breeze through the ranks. Once you hit your 30s, things begin to slow down, but it doesn't get tedious until your 40s. Our quest queue went dry near level 47, leaving dungeon runs and completing fates as the main source of leveling. Once we hit 49, a plethora of new quests opened up, making us wonder why the quests weren't more evenly distributed amongst the mid-lower levels to ease the tedium.
Our single objective is the preservation of the future of Eorzea.
Once you hit 50 and complete the main story, it's off to the endgame content, quests and dungeons designed to keep you coming back to play the game. Sure, you can level up other jobs or crafting classes, but it's these dungeons and instances that determine if players will stick around. A Realm Reborn offers a lot of endgame activities, but they come with some relatively steep requirements that will be off-putting to those who enjoyed the more lenient progressing through the game's story.
A light there once was that shone throughout this realm, yet it hath since grown dim.
During the normal game, there were a handful of one-off instances where you battled against bosses known as primals. In the end game, you face these beasts again, only they're much harder and require 8 players to work together instead of 4. Even if the team executes a sound strategy, success isn't guaranteed. That's because your gear is a huge factor, and if you aren't properly equipped, it's likely you won't survive the encounter.
Power to banish the darkness dwelleth in the crystals of light.
Unless you're with a group of friends, randomly pairing up with players with the duty finder isn't optimal. There's no way to inspect gear before being paired up, and waiting 20 to 30 minutes to get into the battle only to see ill-equipped teammates is frustrating. Square Enix already said the option to inspect gear is coming, but for now it's an endgame rough patch.
Please, be at ease. You are among friends here.
In order to be properly equipped for these primal battles, you'll need to run dungeons to earn items known as tomes, which can then be turned in for better gear. Or you can run some of the endgame dungeons like Ampedor Keep or Wanderer's Palace, where proper gear drops. The trouble with either strategy is that one way or another you're going to be repeatedly running the same dungeons or events dozens of times in order to obtain the right equipment to handle the harder versions of the primal battles. No matter how you look at it, the endgame is a grind and a serious time sink.
Have you ever had the sensation of being pulled away from reality?
Of course, sometimes you have to work hard to get something worthwhile, and that's exactly the type of bragging rights that await those who overcome the endgame's hurdles to obtain the ultimate gear. Just be warned that you will have to repair these precious relics routinely, and the cost of each repair is steep. In fact, this has raised concerns amongst the player base in regards to the economy, but at this point, it's only been a minor nuisance.
Yes, it seemed that way. Time will tell.
One other sticking point that may be off-putting to MMO veterans is the lack of traditional PvP. Currently, PvP is absent from the game, but a future update will add a Coliseum event where players can square off against each other.
And this occurs to you now?
It's clear A Realm Reborn is a much improved game, but it's only now that we've completed the story and participated in the endgame that we realize the full extent of the improvement. There are still minor issues here and there, and the endgame content is brutal with its own unique set of problems, but overall, this is a very good MMO that's done its homework. It's a shame Square Enix had to go through such a painful and lengthy process to get here, but A Realm Reborn was worth the wait.
Thank 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12. 12.